This week's update for the Big Tire Garage is nowhere near the garage because it is Ultimate Adventure Week. That means we are out in the dirt. Now, I showed up a day late because I had some issues with the truck trying to get it done, but I did finally get it done. Rolled in here last night at the end of day one, and now it is time for a road day. We're gonna do 300 miles today with the truck. Should be good. Hopefully, drove all the way from the shop to here, which was about 70 miles, and it worked great. So, and then I can't wait to get it in the dirt and see how it works. But here's a couple of the rigs that are on the trip. Hey Vern, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but my front bumper is like a smaller version of your front bumper.
Somebody commented on that. I built mine first, so I know you copied me.
But I did not copy you at all, but it proves that a lot of the times two people can have the same idea even though they're thousands of miles apart. Yay! All right, now we're wheeling. It's the next day. It's what's day today? Day three, but day two for me. So it's day three, Ultimate Adventure. We're on a private piece of property. This place is called Black Moose. So we got special permission to come in here and go wheeling. So you can see here, it's actually a pretty cool spot. There's even like a little wakeboard park in the middle of it. It's beautiful private land. And today we're gonna go see how the Colorado does in the dirt. Here's some more vehicles for this trip. All right, so it's UA day 4, and I got some good news and some bad news. A couple things of good news. Good news, weather's great. It's a beautiful day out here. We're in Silva, North Carolina. It was a road/light trail day. So I prepped last night, went ahead and I trimmed the fenders on the Colorado because I was getting into the fenders. So we got rid of that. Swapped into a stiffer spring rate spring in the front. I had Superlift bring me those springs just because I felt that I was getting into the bump stops just a little too early. And then we were pretty much ready to go. I was ready to take off and go for the day. Jumped in it this morning and ran down to get fuel. When I was getting fuel, I had this weird sound. And it sounded like it was coming from possibly the bell housing. Almost sounded like maybe the starter was catching on the ring gear. I'm not 100% sure what was going on there. Situation to have right now is we're driving with the group, got about 20 miles from the hotel, and this thing just stalled. Dead, stop, no run. Hit the button to restart it, and the motor is locked up. I mean locked up. Like put a breaker bar on that crank and pull, it's not going anywhere. That is not a side of the road kind of fix. That is an in the shop kind of fix. So the plan right now, other piece of good news is I'm close, well, relatively close. I'm like 4 or 5 hours from home. I was able to call up my buddy Ricky Berry. Ricky Berry is going to jump in his truck and his trailer. He's going to come up here. He's going to pick me up, haul me back to my shop. My plan is simple. I'm going to get this. That's going to burn all of today. So this is Wednesday, day 4. My plan is going to be to get the truck back to the shop, tear it apart, figure out what's wrong. If it's a transmission, that's going to be the easiest fix. If it's an engine, it's not that that's a lot harder fix, it's just harder to get to the point where the engine comes out because the cab has to come off to pull the engine out. The good news is I have spares of both. I have a spare engine, a spare transmission because I've got other projects going on. It's not really how I wanted to spend the next couple days. It's basically wrenching on this more, but Ultimate Adventure is all about never say quit, never say die, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this thing to my shop, get it apart, figure out what's wrong with it, get it back together, and I know where the last day of wheeling is because I know where the last hotel is. So Friday night, I have a hotel reservation in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. My goal will be to get this thing fixed and over to that hotel for the last day so I can rejoin everybody for the last day of Ultimate Adventure with this truck and just finish strong. The bummer is, the truck was working great. It really was. Wheeling it was tons of fun. It's super stable. I was worried that having the tent on the back of the bed would be a little bit uneasy on the trails, but it really wasn't. Leaf springs can kind of get a little wobbly out there, but it worked great. I guess I've never really given you guys a walk around on the truck, so I'll give you just like a brief walk around of what we ended up with. You've probably seen the episode on Motor Trend's YouTube channel by now. If you haven't, I'll go ahead and I'll get that linked up for you at some point in time, probably right now in the video. But you know, the custom frame was working really well. If I do anything next, I'm going to do more interior work because it's full cab truck in there. It's just like sheet metal floor, nothing else. I'd love to finish out the inside with maybe even like a pull-out slide for the fridge, because the fridge is sitting behind the passenger seat. It would be really nice to be able to have like maybe a little kitchen come right out of there. That would be pretty cool. The back, loving how everything works out. I'm loving how the tent ended up sitting on top of the bed. Tent ended up sitting on top of the toolboxes, which put it right at cab height. I think that's perfect. I'm probably going to do some sort of actual aluminum bed because I do think I might want some kind of fender, or at least even if I just got half of a fender over this tire, I think I'd be a lot happier. Some of the stuff that worked great, the Orbit Eye shackles that I did on here, the actual Johnny joints for the shackles, they work great. Even when you're driving on the road, you can actually feel them. Sometimes when you hit a big bump, you'll feel the back end move around. And I was asking the guys that were following me, and they said sometimes, yeah, you'll see the axle move, but you never felt it in the cab. It never felt uneasy, which was great. I actually got the truck pretty seriously sideways on a couple trails, and it never felt like it was going to go over. It never even felt close. It felt like the center of gravity was super low and it was super stable. And so I'm very happy with how this truck turned out. And unfortunately, I just had like a major part breakage, and that's just part of life, man. Sometimes stuff breaks, and you can either let it get you down and be mad and be angry, or you can just, you know, put on your work shirt, grab your tools, and get stuff done. That's what we're gonna do. So that's where we're at right now. Waiting on Ricky Berry. As soon as I get it in the shop, I'll give you an update as to what status we have. Okay, so UA Day 5 update. I'm back in the shop. Took all day yesterday to basically ferry the truck back here to my shop from where we were on the trip. We're back here. I basically dumped it last night and then just crashed, went to bed, woke up. It honestly took me till noon to get this truck off the trailer and now into the shop just to work on it because the engine was seized. I'm pulling it around with winches all over the place. So here's where we're at. If you remember, the engine seized while we were driving, and we thought the engine locked up. But my gut told me that that wasn't what it was, because it just didn't feel like an engine that's locked up. Once you've had an engine lock up on you, you know what it feels like, trust me. So it made like a squeakity, squeakity, squeakity sound, and then just went boom. So I don't know if it's inside the transmission, or if it's but I know now it's not the engine. And so here's what I did. I went ahead and I was able to get the engine itself separated from the transmission just enough for basically the pump to disengage from the transmission. I basically pulled all the bell housing bolts, pulled all the mounts, and slid this thing back. And now that I've done that, if I put a breaker bar on the engine, right now, right here, you can see, I got this breaker bar on the engine. Now it turns. Before, it was locked solid. So that tells me two things. Number one, engine is okay. Also tells me that it possibly might not be the transmission, because even though I got it apart far enough, I don't think that it basically fully disengaged from the pump. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, and now that I can turn the motor over, I'm going to disconnect the torque converter, and then I'll put the starter back on, start the motor, see what happens there, and then at that point we may be going ahead and just swapping in my spare transmission. The plan at this point is to meet up with everybody for the last day of wheeling. I don't think there's any way that I'm going to be able to do all this work, drive all the way out there for, what's today, Thursday? Today's Thursday. There's no way, because I'd basically be passing them and then getting back to where they are. I know where they are Friday night. My plan is to meet up with them Friday night with this thing, ready to rock and roll, and then we'll spend the last day wheeling. We'll have the last day on UA, which will be good. That's all that matters. Okay, so here's where we're at right now. I basically pulled the entire Magnum transfer case package out. That's not light. And now I've got the trans dropped out of the truck. I'd originally designed this truck that if you wanted to do this job, you pulled the cab. I just wasn't doing that. That ended up looking like a whole lot more work. Besides, I kind of had the transmission 90% out of the truck just to test it. You know, I had to disconnect all the bell housing bolts and push it back far enough to get off the pump. And so at that point, the transmission is basically just hanging there. So really, it was just as easy just to get the transmission jack out, drop the transfer case out the bottom, drop the trans out the bottom. I will eventually finish out this truck so everything comes off the cab. But what I need to do in order to do that is come up with an easy way to lift the cab, because when I was planning all of that, these rock sliders weren't installed yet. And the problem now is the front pad, it can get this lip to lift the body, which is fine. This one comes out here and grabs this one. But back here, I don't have any way to get to this corner. So I think in the long run, what I might do is I might come up with some sort of like fixture that'll basically just slide in through the doors and maybe bolt to the floor or attach to the floor, maybe even attach to the cage, and then just key off the arms on the lift and then just lift the body off. It's only 6 bolts. And then I'm going to set up 2 weather pack connectors for all the wiring that would go with it. But the good news is now the old trans is out. I need to go pick up the new trans because it's not here in the shop. It's actually at the house. So probably what I'm going to do is by the time I go get that and get loaded up, I might call it a day. And then tomorrow morning I'll start fresh, toss that transmission in there, and then get this thing buttoned up and get ready for a day of wheeling on Saturday. That's a wrap on this Ultimate Adventure week. I didn't get a lot of footage because honestly, once I got this thing fixed, I just wanted to wheel it and I just spent the day bouncing around in the woods. But all in all, the Colorado did great. Once again, if you want to see that thing get built, you're gonna have to tune into the Motor Trend YouTube channel. I'll put a link up in this video so you can go and watch it. But I'll give you a quick little just walk around of it here. Ended up great. We got a little bit muddy on that last day, just bouncing around through some puddles. It's not 100% done, but it's done enough for UA. But I think honestly, this is the package. From now on, this will be what I take on Ultimate Adventure every single year. So going forward, I will just refine it from here. Probably finish out the inside, make it a little bit more creature comforts. I did get a flat. My spare tire system worked great. My Johnny joints on the rear shackles rode great on the highway. I didn't feel the need to swap them out for the poly joints at all. Obviously 14 bolt, bomb proof, no problems there. These boxes work great storing all of our junk, and it's just a good package, just a good all-around package for something like Ultimate Adventure. So basically you'll see it back again. I'll pull it back in the shop. Obviously I got to clean it. I'm gonna clean it up and then I'll get it back in the shop, and it will just be, like I said, refined. I'd like to have heat, AC, all those creature comforts inside. May do a full aluminum custom dash. That might be kind of cool with like a big GPS unit and all that kind of jazz. But this one, I originally thought maybe I'd just throw it together and then flip it, but if you know me by now, I collect cars. So this one will be my Ultimate Adventure truck going forward, and it'll be the one that I take out every single year because I think I nailed the package this time. It really was the perfect package.